So I go buy a water bottle at a gas station and I drink the water and then I discard the trash. I either put it in the garbage can or I throw it out the window. Well, when it rains, that water bottle will enter the storm drains. It'll be washed into the storm drains, and all storm drains lead to waterways. So that storm drain will lead either to a canal or straight out to the bay. Miami-Dade County has 2.5 million people living in it. And let's say that 50% of those people may litter one piece of trash. That's 1.25 million pieces of trash that end up on the street. And so all of that trash enters into the storm drain system, and there are thousands and thousands and thousands of storm drain inlets at the street level, all throughout the county. All of those then funnel into the storm drains and out into the canals or the bay. I didn't start off intending to be an environmentalist or an activist at all. I am an avid paddleboarder. I love being in the water. As I was paddling one day, in my kayak, I saw a lot of trash and I started just picking it up. And before I knew it, I would come back with bags and bags of trash. And I wanted to find out where this was coming from because I knew it wasn't right.
We realized that the problem was so large that we needed to do something more about it. So we had kind of started very small, incrementally, organizing small groups of people to come out and do cleanups. That not only was the problem great, but that there were a lot of people that cared about it and wanted to do something, but there was no really way to connect them all together. And so that's how we primarily started building the website volunteercleanup.org as a digital bridge to connect anybody who was organizing a cleanup with any volunteer who wanted to participate. And the good news is that most people don't stand at the ocean's edge and toss their trash into the ocean, right? There's something instinctively, I think, as humans, that when we see the ocean or we see a body of water, we know it's precious. But people will litter in the street all day long. And NOAA estimates that approximately 80% of the trash that we find in our oceans and waterways is originating as street-based litter, and it's entering into the waterways through the storm drain systems.
Well, what we've been able to do is show that the storm drain systems are not being cleaned efficiently and frequently enough.
All right, what kinds of infrastructure improvements can we develop? Can we put something on the storm drains to prevent the trash from flowing in? Or can we put something on the outfalls to capture the trash before it goes into the bay?
I was not aware that all of our storm drains lead very directly to local waterways, places where people have boats, where people might even swim and bring their families into the water. A simple trip to the beach suddenly becomes a hazard if you're going to encounter sharp objects. You might encounter something that a child could pick up and swallow. One of the popular hobbies here in our state park is fishing. People go fishing, they are allowed to keep what they catch, they're allowed to eat what they catch. If a fish consumes plastic, we consume the fish. Ultimately, that moves up the biomagnification chain, detrimental to people.
So people come to Miami for the beautiful sun and the water. They want to lay on the beach, but nobody wants to see a dirty beach. And so we spend millions and millions of dollars cleaning up other people's litter so that we can have a clean beach every morning when the new visitors come. Biscayne Bay is really the heart and center of our tourist economy. People want to swim in it, they want to fish in it, they want to dive in it. We need a good, clean, healthy bay and ocean in order to continue attracting the tourists who want to come spend their money here.
Swimming in the bay isn't what it was, 15, 20 years ago. Seeing plastic in the water is an everyday thing. It's become kind of the new normal. I see it in all our rip lines, in the Sargasso, flotsam, in the float. I'll see them on the beach. Education doesn't change behavior. I think there are other things that have to change behavior. It might have to be just realizing that individuals are going to behave that way, and there's got to be some kind of corporate, government-wide, attempt to get rid of the plastics making it into the drain systems and things like that.
The other interesting thing is that, when we noticed it was coming from the storm drains, because we would paddle and we would see the storm drain outfalls and we would see all the trash, kind of tangled up in there, and like the streets would be flooded, and then here's all this trash clogging the storm drains. And as Dave would pull out the trash bags from the drain, the water would start flowing again. And the city is spending, millions and millions of dollars raising the streets and putting these pump stations out to deal with sea level rise. And I'm not saying that the trash is the only, source of street flooding, but it's certainly a contributing factor.
People are going to be much more sensitive to flooding in the future, and it's going to affect insurance values. So an area that's prone to flooding and low-lying that doesn't maintain and keep up looking at trash as a possible irritant to making more flooding happen, if you exacerbate already a problem that we have by ignoring these things, it's even going to make it a problem worse. And eventually it's going to start affecting people's ability to get insurance. And people's desire to move into an area, invest in an area. Littering and trash definitely affects property values. I think people see it as an outward sign of the overall health of a neighborhood, financial health, and natural environmental degradation. It sort of signals that there's a lack of attention to the well-being of the residents and the upkeep of the neighborhood. So it definitely is, it's one of those very obvious visible signs that a neighborhood is in decline.
We've been advocating for storm drain gratings that go on the front of the storm drain inlet to prevent the trash from going in. The further it gets into the system, the more expensive and more complicated it is to prevent from going out into the bay.
We originally started not to prevent pollution. We started to prevent floods caused by trash that gets into the storm drain system and the pipes and then backs up the water. You have water that goes from the street into what's called the catch basin structure that's intended to capture a lot of trash and not let it get into the pipes and out into the canals and waterways. The reality is though, when water flows, especially with floatables, such as plastics and styrofoam and even leaves, the floatables go with that water into the pipe. So even though you design a structure that's intended to contain a lot of trash, it really only works if the trash sinks and stays below the level of the pipe. But once the water starts going into that pipe and it moves all that stuff with it, it's really ineffective at blocking all that trash from getting into the waterways. Oftentimes you outsource and you use a contractor. The contractor will charge you to clean a catch basin and then per linear foot of pipe that goes out after that. It's very expensive to maintain the system clean with that method. But even worse, as soon as you clean it, once you have more trash getting into the system and water flowing, that water will likely take trash out into the waterways again. So that's where we would come in. And we would say if you have inlets, either they're grates and you want to prevent trash from getting past the grate and into the pipes, or at the curb opening where a lot of big items get through, we can implement a solution that helps you save money because you're not using the Vactor cleaning as much at least, and at the same time you maintain the infrastructure that you've already invested all this money on. There are a ton of solutions. That's the good news. In addition to preventing the trash from getting in with a physical device like ours, you can also talk to your city about promoting more awareness, and helping to bring more awareness can be having volunteer cleanups.
The last time we checked, we were at about 1,054 cleanups that have been organized on our platform. And so we're almost at 250,000 pounds of trash that we have, sort of collectively facilitated.
If you can get the word out, if you can get people passionate, knowledgeable, then you can elicit change. People aren't going to change policy, people aren't going to make the small everyday changes in their lives that are necessary unless they care, unless they're told.
If you have a goal of reducing or removing plastic pollutants from the water, and you can align it with some kind of economic, capitalistic kind of approach, which is what this country is all about, then I think you'll find people who want to do it with you.
It's time for a network of communities to get together, and that's already starting to happen on different social media, to talk about these issues that might affect their property values, such as trash, and also affect their flooding. There's two good reasons to really tackle this problem.
The easy thing about this problem is that it is very obvious. When you see a water bottle, or where you see a plastic bag, or you see a straw, when you see that floating into the bay, you know that's not all right.